The joke that changed everything. The alien ship floated above a silent planet, its metal body glowing with blue light. Inside, the crew moved without fear, for they were explorers of the galaxy, a race that had seen countless worlds. Among them was a young alien girl named Soraya. She was known for her playful nature, always teasing others to break the endless silence of space travel. That day, Soraya and a few of her companions gathered in the Hall of Relics, a chamber filled with strange and ancient objects. The room smelled of dust and power, and glowing lights traced across the walls like veins of the ship itself. At the center of the hall stood a relic no alien dared to touch for centuries, the armor of the ancestors. The armor rested upright on a stand of silver stone, tall and proud, its plates covered with markings no one could read anymore. It was black as the void, yet strange blue lines glimmered faintly along its surface. The elders said it once belonged to a warrior who fought before their recorded history, but now it was nothing more than a dead shell. For generations, no alien had been able to awaken it. To Soraya, however, it was just another piece of history, another story meant to scare the curious. And when she saw the human guest standing nearby, she smiled with mischief in her eyes. The human was called Marcus, a soldier from Earth who had joined the aliens on their travels. He was strong and disciplined, but among the aliens he always felt like a stranger. He stood quietly, looking at the relic, his arms crossed, his face calm but curious. Soraya whispered to her companions, and they giggled softly. Then she turned to Marcus and said, "Why not try it on? Let us see how a human looks in the armor of gods." Her words were half a joke, half a challenge, her eyes gleaming with playfulness. The other aliens laughed. One of them added, "Yes, human. Maybe the armor will finally shine if you wear it." Their voices echoed through the chamber, light and careless. Marcus looked at them, then at the armor. He knew they did not expect him to accept. They wanted entertainment, something to laugh about for the rest of the journey. He hesitated, feeling a strange pull from the relic as if it was watching him in silence. "Are you afraid?" Soraya teased, tilting her head, silver hair falling across her shoulder. Marcus stepped forward. His boots rang against the stone floor. He stopped before the armor, his hand rising slowly. "If this is your idea of fun," he said in a calm voice, "then let us see." The laughter grew louder. They leaned closer, eager to see the human fail. No alien hand had ever stirred the relic, and they were certain it would remain lifeless. But the moment Marcus touched the cold metal, the room changed. The blue lines across the armor flared to life, glowing like rivers of fire. The relic trembled, releasing a low hum that shook the chamber walls. The air grew heavy, as though unseen hands pressed down on every soul present. The aliens gasped, their laughter vanishing in an instant. Soraya's smile faded, replaced with wide-eyed shock. The armor moved on its own, its plates unfolding like wings. The chest piece slid open, and without effort it attached itself to Marcus. The rest of the armor followed, piece by piece, locking into place as though it had been waiting for him all along. Marcus staggered as the energy rushed through his body. His heart pounded like thunder, his vision sharp and blinding. He could feel every detail in the room, the air, the fear in the aliens, the ancient power that now burned inside him. The relic's glow grew brighter, casting long shadows on the walls. Strange markings appeared across the surface, symbols that none of the aliens had ever seen before. The ground shook, dust falling from the ceiling. Soraya stepped back, her hand covering her mouth. Her voice was a whisper. "This is not possible." Marcus raised his head, his eyes reflecting the blue light of the armor. He could hear a voice, deep and echoing, not from the room but from inside his mind. "You are chosen." The words struck him with force, filling his chest with both power and dread. The aliens stared at him, frozen between fear and awe. Some whispered to each other, their voices trembling. The joke they had started now felt like a curse. The relic had never answered to any of them, yet here it was, alive and burning on a human's body. Marcus tried to pull the armor off, but it would not release him. The plates clung to his skin, as if they had fused with his very soul. His arms trembled, his breath uneven, but the relic pulsed with power, binding itself to him. The voice spoke again, louder this time, its tone commanding. "The seal is broken. The enemy stirs." Marcus froze. He did not know what the words meant, but he could feel the weight of them pressing on his chest. The aliens backed away, their playful eyes now filled with fear. What had started as a harmless dare had become something else, something terrifying. Soraya's hands shook as she whispered, "What have we done?" The chamber was silent except for the hum of the awakened armor. Marcus stood at its center, glowing like a living weapon, his face pale but steady. He felt power unlike anything he had ever known. And deep inside, a shadow waiting to rise. The joke had ended. Something far greater had begun. The awakening power Marcus stood frozen in the center of the chamber. The relic armor clung to his body like a second skin, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. His breathing was heavy, and his hands shook as waves of unknown energy surged through him. The aliens who had laughed only moments before now stared in silence, their eyes wide with fear. The air in the hall grew heavy, almost alive, pressing against everyone present. The glow of the armor reflected on Soraya's green skin, and she could not look away. What was supposed to be a joke had become something far beyond her control. Marcus tried to move. His steps echoed like thunder, and sparks of blue light followed his every motion. He lifted his arm, and the armor responded, plates shifting as if alive. Strange lines of power crawled up his skin beneath the metal, and the hum of the relic vibrated in his bones. The voice returned, deep and commanding inside his mind. "You are the vessel. You are chosen," Marcus gritted his teeth. "Chosen for what?" he whispered, but the voice gave no answer. Around him, the aliens began to whisper. Some muttered that it was a sign. Others spoke of curses. One older alien stepped forward, his face pale with fear. "Remove it. Take it off before it is too late." "I cannot," Marcus said, his voice tense. He pulled at the armor, clawing at the chest piece, but it would not move. The more he struggled, the tighter it clung to him. It felt as though it had fused with his very flesh. Soraya stepped closer despite her fear. Her silver hair shimmered in the glow as she whispered, "The relic has never answered us. Never once in all our history. But with you, it obeys." Marcus looked at her, his jaw tight. "I never asked for this." The hum of the armor grew louder and the floor beneath them shook. Dust rained down from the high ceiling. The other aliens stepped back, panic in their eyes. The relic was no longer just glowing. It was awakening something deeper. Marcus's vision blurred, and suddenly he was no longer in the hall. He saw flashes of battles long forgotten, armies of light clashing against shadows. Worlds burning, stars collapsing into darkness. And at the center of it all, a figure in the same armor he now wore, standing tall against an endless wave of enemies. The vision ended as suddenly as it began, and Marcus fell to his knees. He gasped for air, sweat dripping from his brow. "What did you see?" Soraya asked softly, kneeling beside him. Marcus shook his head, his eyes still filled with images of destruction. War. A war that never ended. The aliens exchanged fearful glances. The older one muttered, "It begins again." "The seal is weakening," Marcus clenched his fists. He could feel strength he never knew inside him. Every breath filled his body with energy, as if he could tear through steel with bare hands. But with that strength came fear. The voice in his mind was not his own. The armor was alive, and it carried memories that did not belong to him. One of the aliens cried out, "He must be destroyed! Before it is too late!" Soraya turned sharply, her voice firm. "No, he did not choose this. The relic chose him. If it awakened for him, then there is a reason," the others argued, their voices rising in fear. Some demanded Marcus be locked away. Others begged for his death. Marcus stood slowly, the armor glowing brighter as if responding to their fear. His voice was calm but sharp. "Enough. I am not your enemy." But the aliens' eyes told a different story. They no longer saw him as a guest. They saw him as a danger. The relic pulsed again, and Marcus felt another wave of visions. This time he saw chains, vast and ancient, buried deep beneath alien soil. Something moved within the darkness, straining against the bonds. And with every beat of his heart, the chains weakened. The voice in his head returned, cold and certain. The prison breaks. The enemy wakes. Marcus staggered back, his face pale. What enemy? He asked out loud, but the voice did not answer. Soraya reached out, placing a trembling hand on his armored arm. Her eyes were filled with fear and guilt. This is my fault. I thought it was only a joke. I did not know. Marcus looked at her, the glow of the armor casting shadows across his face. Whatever has started, it cannot be undone. But I will not run from it. The chamber shook again, harder this time. Lights flickered across the walls, and a deep rumble echoed from beneath the floor. The aliens froze, terror in their eyes. Marcus lifted his head. He did not know what he was becoming, but he knew one truth. Something had been awakened, and it was only the beginning. The fear spreads. The ship's corridors carried whispers long before official orders were given. What had started in the Hall of Relics could not remain hidden for long. Every crew member now knew the human guest had awakened the forbidden armor. Some called him a chosen warrior, others whispered of curses, but all agreed on one thing: nothing would ever be the same. Marcus walked alone through the narrow halls, his steps heavy with the weight of the relic. The armor clung to him like a shadow, glowing faintly even when he tried to will it dark. Every door he passed slid open in silence, and alien eyes followed him with fear and suspicion. He wanted to speak to them, to explain he was still himself, still the same man who had shared meals and stories with them. But their eyes told him the truth. They no longer saw Marcus. They saw only the relic. Soraya followed close behind him, refusing to leave his side. Her voice was low but steady. Do not listen to them. They do not know you like I do. Marcus shook his head. They are right to fear me. I can feel it. The armor is not just metal. It thinks, it remembers, it wants something. Soraya hesitated before asking, what does it want? He looked at her with troubled eyes. To fight. To wake what sleeps. When they reached the council chamber, the room was already filled. High-ranking aliens stood in a circle, their long robes glowing with faint threads of light. Their faces were serious, their voices sharp. The air smelled of ozone, heavy with tension. The eldest counselor, a tall figure with dark green skin, raised his voice. This human has broken a seal older than our records. The armor has chosen him, but we cannot allow such power to remain unchecked. Our people must be protected. Another counselor spoke with fear in his tone. The relic speaks of an enemy. If that enemy rises again, it will destroy us all. The human is the key. We must end this before it begins. Marcus clenched his fists, his jaw tight. You speak as if I wanted this. I never asked for your relic. I never asked to be chosen. The eldest fixed his gaze on him. Intentions do not matter. Results do. If you are the key to awakening the enemy, then you are the greatest danger aboard this ship. The chamber filled with murmurs. Some nodded in agreement, others looked uncertain. Soraya stepped forward, her voice rising above theirs. You are blinded by fear. He is not our enemy. The relic chose him for a reason. We cannot destroy what we do not understand. The council fell silent for a moment, their eyes fixed on her. Then one voice broke the stillness. And if understanding costs us our lives? Before Soraya could respond, the ship itself trembled. A deep rumble echoed through the walls, and the lights flickered. Everyone froze, their faces pale. Marcus felt it before anyone else. The armor pulsed against his skin, burning hot, its glow spreading like fire across the plates. His vision blurred, and once again he was pulled into a storm of memories not his own. He saw the chains again, vast and endless, buried beneath alien ruins. Something massive twisted in the shadows, pressing against the bonds. Each time the armor pulsed, the chains cracked. He felt it straining, hungry, waiting. When his vision cleared, he was standing in the council chamber again, breathing heavily. His voice was rough as he said, "It is waking. Whatever they locked away, it is waking because of me." The room erupted in chaos. Some counselors shouted for his execution, others demanded he be locked away. The fear spread like fire, and the crew outside the chamber began to panic as the echoes of the argument reached them. Soraya placed a hand on Marcus's arm, her voice trembling but determined. We cannot let them decide this out of fear. You are not the monster they think you are. Marcus lowered his head. But what if they are right? What if I cannot stop it? Soraya leaned closer. Then we find a way. Together. Before the council could reach a decision, alarms blared across the ship. A red glow filled the halls, and a mechanical voice rang out. Unstable energy detected. Source, planetary ruins below. The council froze. Their eyes turned to Marcus, as if the alarm had confirmed their darkest fears. Marcus felt the armor pulse again, harder this time. His voice was low but steady. It is calling to me. The enemy waits down there. The eldest counselor's face hardened. Then you must not go. If you set foot on that planet, the seal will break completely. Marcus looked at him, his voice cold. And if I do not go, it will break anyway. The chamber was silent. The fear had spread through the ship, through the crew, and now through the leaders themselves. Every eye turned toward the human in alien armor, glowing like a living weapon. And for the first time in centuries, no one knew what choice to make. The hidden enemy returns. The alarm still echoed through the ship as Marcus stood in the council chamber, the armor glowing like a storm around his body. The hum of power filled the air, and no one dared to move closer. Outside, crew members ran through the halls in panic, their voices blending into a wave of fear. The counselors turned toward the central screen. A live feed showed the planet below, its surface cracked like dry earth. Strange blue light seeped from deep fissures, pulsing as if the planet itself was alive. The energy signature was unstable, and it grew stronger with every passing second. Marcus felt the pull again, stronger than before. The armor wanted him to go down there. He could sense it. Something waited beneath the surface, something chained for ages. His jaw tightened as he whispered to himself, "This is what it has been warning me about." Soraya stepped closer, ignoring the way the other counselors glared at her. If the enemy is waking, then hiding will not stop it. He may be the only one who can face it. The eldest counselor slammed his hand against the table, his voice sharp with anger. You speak madness. The human is the cause of this. He wears the relic, and because of him, the seal weakens. To send him closer would mean doom. Marcus lifted his head, his voice calm but heavy. If you do nothing, the seal will break anyway. I have seen it in the visions. The chains will not hold much longer. You can kill me, you can lock me away, but it will not stop what is coming. The chamber fell into silence. Every alien in the room felt the weight of his words. Then the ship shook violently. The lights went out for a moment, plunging them into darkness before emergency power restored a dim red glow. On the screen, one of the fissures widened, splitting open like a wound. From the depths, something massive stirred. The armor reacted instantly. Its glow flared so bright that the counselors shielded their eyes. Marcus staggered as the voice returned inside his head, louder and sharper than before. The enemy rises. Prepare yourself, vessel, Marcus gasped, gripping the edge of the table. His heart raced, his body trembling from the force of the voice. Soraya rushed to him, her hand steadying him. What do you see? She asked urgently. His eyes burned with light as he whispered, A shadow. Larger than the stars. It is coming! On the planet below, the fissures erupted, sending towers of light into the sky. From within, shapes began to crawl upward. They were not alive in the way normal creatures were. Their bodies were formed of stone and dark energy, their eyes glowing red like embers. The enemy that had been locked away was no longer sleeping. The crew panicked as the creatures rose. The ship's defenses powered up, turrets shifting into position, but the counselors knew the truth. Their weapons had failed against this enemy in the past. That was why the armor had been created. That was why it had sealed them away. Now the seal was breaking. Marcus straightened, his breathing heavy. The armor adjusted itself around him, new plates forming over his shoulders and arms, glowing brighter as if preparing for battle. His voice was steady, though filled with dread. I have no choice. It chose me to fight. If I do nothing, you all die. The eldest counselor's face twisted with both fear and pride. And if you lose? Marcus met his eyes, his expression cold. Then we all fall together. Without waiting for permission, he turned toward the hangar. The crew stepped aside as he walked past, their faces pale, their eyes following him as if watching the march of death itself. Soraya hurried behind him, refusing to leave his side. The ship's hangar doors opened and Marcus stepped toward the transport bay. Outside, the planet glowed with cracks of blue fire, and the first of the enemy creatures raised their heads to the sky. Their roars echoed even in space, a sound so deep it rattled the walls of the ship. Marcus placed his hand against the cold glass of the viewing window. The armor pulsed again, whispering inside him. "Accept us fully. Only then will you have the strength." He closed his eyes. He knew what it meant: surrender. If he gave himself to the armor completely, it would give him the power he needed. But it might also take his humanity away forever. Soraya touched his arm gently. Her voice was low but fierce. "Whatever happens, you are not alone. I will stand with you." Marcus opened his eyes, staring down at the burning planet. The enemy had returned. The seal was broken. There was no turning back. The next move would decide not just his fate, but the fate of every living being aboard the ship, and perhaps beyond. The terrifying choice. The hangar doors opened and the planet below filled the view. Blue fire spread across its surface like veins, and the shapes of the awakened enemy rose higher with every passing moment. Their bodies twisted with stone and shadow, their roars shaking the silence of space. Marcus stood at the edge of the bay, the relic armor burning with light across his body. Each pulse of its glow matched the beat of his heart, faster and faster, as if the armor itself grew restless. He could feel it pulling him, demanding that he descend to the planet. Soraya stood beside him, her eyes locked on the creatures clawing out of the fissures. She whispered, "They will not stop. They will keep coming until nothing is left." Marcus nodded slowly. His voice was low and heavy. "The armor knows it. That is why it chose me." Behind them, the counselors and soldiers gathered, watching with both hope and dread. No one spoke. Every soul on the ship understood the truth. If Marcus failed, their story would end here. The armor's voice thundered inside his head again, louder than before. "Accept us fully. Give yourself. Only then can you stand against the enemy." Marcus clenched his fists, his body trembling. He knew what it wanted. If he surrendered, the power would be his, but his humanity might be lost forever. He would not be Marcus anymore. Only the weapon the armor desired. Soraya's voice broke through his thoughts. "You are more than the armor. Do not forget that." He looked at her, his eyes glowing blue from the light beneath the helmet. "If I give myself to it, I may never return. Do you understand that?" She swallowed, her voice trembling. "If you do not, none of us will survive. And I would rather lose you to the armor than lose you to death." The ground below split wider. A massive shadow emerged, larger than the mountains, its form hidden in smoke and fire. Its roar shook the ship itself, a sound so deep it seemed to tear through the fabric of space. The ancient enemy had returned. The crew panicked, shouting as weapons powered up. Beams of energy struck the creature, but they vanished against its body, like drops of water in fire. The alien counselors stared in silence, their faces pale. Their weapons could not harm what their ancestors had failed to destroy. Marcus stepped forward, his boots echoing across the bay floor. The armor expanded, locking new pieces into place over his arms and legs. The glow around him grew so bright that the crew shielded their eyes. He looked like a figure pulled from prophecy, half human, half god of war. The voice inside him rose once more. "Decide. Be human and fall, or surrender and rise." Marcus closed his eyes. He thought of Earth, of the people he had left behind, of the crew who no longer trusted him, and of Soraya, whose trembling hand still clung to his arm. He thought of what it meant to be human, not the strength of body, but the strength to choose, even when the choice meant sacrifice. He opened his eyes. His voice was steady. "Then I choose." The armor blazed like a star, swallowing him in light. His scream echoed through the bay, not of fear, but of transformation. The metal fused deeper, the glow spreading until he was no longer Marcus in armor, but something greater, something terrifying. The crew gasped as the light dimmed. He stood taller now, his body encased in a form that looked less like a soldier and more like a living weapon. His eyes burned with blue fire, and when he moved, the air itself seemed to bend around him. Soraya whispered his name, but he did not answer. The armor's voice and his own spoke as one. "The vessel is ready." The massive creature on the planet below lifted its head, its glowing red eyes locking onto the ship. For the first time, Marcus felt no fear, only power. He stepped toward the drop bay doors as they began to open. Wind and light rushed in, carrying the sound of the awakened enemy's roar. Marcus looked once at Soraya, his eyes still burning with light. In his voice there was both humanity and something beyond it. "Whatever happens, remember me." And then he leapt. The ship shook as his armored form dropped toward the burning planet, a trail of blue fire cutting through the sky. The enemy roared in answer, the sound like thunder across the galaxy. In that moment, every soul aboard the ship knew the truth. The human had become something else, something their ancestors had both created and feared. The battle for survival had begun.